Well, good morning. Welcome to the February 6, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting. I would like to begin with the roll call.
Supervisor Brandau.
Here.
Supervisor Mendez.
Here.
Supervisor Pacheco.
Here.
Supervisor Quintero. Here. Chairman Magzik.
And I am here.
All present. Thank you.
Very good. We're going to begin with the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to introduce Nathan Freeland. He is the CSO of the Fresno Mission, where he oversees all development, fundraising, integration of departments, and special projects. Alongside the CEO, Nathan plays an integral part in the development of City Center and City Ranch, the two largest expansion projects in the 75-year history of the mission. Previously, he served as the vice chairman and the treasurer of the board of directors. Nathan and his wife, Brandy, have been married 24 years, and they have 6 beautiful children. Pastor.
Yeah. Thank you. It's an honor and privilege to be here. Just want to share something really quick. I've known Nathan Magzik for about 40 years, and he lived with me and my family when we were children, when his parents were moving into Fresno, and he lived with us, and we blew up fireworks in the backyard out in the country, and it was a great time for two 9-year-olds. But I think my parents were glad that you had moved out after 3 weeks. So, just wanted to say a prayer for the supervisors and for our county. Father, we come to you, and I pray that you would lead our County Board of Supervisors with a humble confidence. As your son Jesus was humble, he also led with confidence. And we pray that you would give our leaders, not just the supervisors, but our community leaders, our city leaders, religious leaders, our neighborhood leaders, corporate leaders, a humble confidence that we would be like you and your son Jesus. That we would know when we are wrong, know when we are right, but use the wisdom and the guidance that you have given us in our minds to lead for the betterment of our county, the betterment of our city, the betterment of our neighborhoods and our business and economy. I pray that you would help all of us to represent who you are, not just to our citizens and our people, but to our state and to our country, that Fresno would be a leader among cities. I lift these things up to you in your name. Amen. And the Pledge of Allegiance.
The flag of the United States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Item number 1, approve agenda.
Any members have any modifications, comments on the agenda?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And I don't think anyone's opposed, so that's unanimous.
We now move to item number 2, approve consent agenda item numbers 17 through 29.
Any board members wishing to comment or pull any of the consent agenda items?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I need to pull item number 28 because I need to recuse myself from that item. This is one of the new rules that's getting worked out across the state of California. And just to be better off until these rules have been made more clear, I'm going to have to recuse myself from this vote.
All right, understood. So item 28 will be pulled. Any other items needing to be pulled? Seeing none, anyone in the public wishing to comment on the remaining items on the consent calendar, or do any members wish to pull an item? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion, bring it back to the board for action on the remainder.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And it looks like that passed as well unanimously. And we will take up item 28 when?
We can take it up after item 3.
All right, we will take it up after item 3.
We now move to item 3, under Supervisor Quintero, proclaim February as Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month.
Supervisor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This month of February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And each year, 1 in 3 teens is physically, emotionally, or verbally abused by a dating partner. And what I'd like to do is to invite Nicole Linder from Marjorie Mason to please come forward and say a few words and accept the proclamation. Well, excuse me, Nicole, before you start, I guess there's some other folks that are here with you, and probably ask them to come and stand behind you if possible.
Yeah, or next
Leticia
to us.
Campos, Ashley Wolf, Alexa Ortega, Kiara Zarita, Mathis Cavett, Josh Gonzalez, and of course, our other dignitaries.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Supervisor Quintero, Board of Supervisors for Fresno County. I'm Nicole Linder with the Marjorie Mason Center. I'm going to speak less and let others, we have some of our youth here today who are going to say a few words. I think I just wanted to thank the county for being a great partner. Obviously, you have several county leaders who partner with us in not only helping survivors of domestic violence, but helping prevent and end domestic violence in our community. As you're very well aware, of the 10 most populated counties in the state of California, Fresno has the highest per capita calls to law enforcement for domestic violence. Our teen dating violence prevention program, the No More program, is intended to prevent domestic violence by working with youth and talking about the components of healthy relationships and how to avoid the red flags of unhealthy ones. In 2023, the Marjorie Mason Center launched a domestic violence data dashboard. I'm a little bit of a data geek, but I firmly believe if we don't really understand what's happening on these calls that law enforcement are responding to, we're never going to truly understand how we prevent and end it. It's on the front page of our website, so feel free to take a look. You can look by your city that you represent. You can look by ages, demographics, including homicide information. It was a labor of love, I think I'll say that, for the law enforcement agencies in all of Fresno County because they sourced the data for it. But what we found is that of the calls to law enforcement in 2023, there were 261 reports of dating violence involving a teen, which resulted in 463 offenses. Teens are more likely to experience physical violence, sexual assault, and violence with guns. And so today we're here to say we're not acceptable anymore. We are raising awareness in high school campuses and church youth groups all around the county to say we want to empower and equip young people with the tools of healthy relationships. So last year we also had a PSA. I want to thank the Public Health Department, Dave Lucchini, who's behind me. I have eyes behind me. We had a PSA on television talking about healthy relationships and focusing on teens. So thank you to all of our partners. I'm going to quickly turn it over to Jessica Saylor, our Prevention, Education, and Outreach Manager, who's going to introduce our students.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us today just to help us raise awareness about teen dating violence. I am the first to call myself out. I wasn't fully aware of what teens were experiencing until I was able to be in the classroom with them. And so being able to help educate them on what healthy relationships look like and hopefully work myself out of a job and allow teens to experience healthy relationships moving forward. But I have the privilege of turning it over to our student ambassador, and he will be sharing more information about the program.
Good morning, Chairman Magsig, Vice Chairman Mendez, and members of the council. My name is Joshua Gonzalez, and I am here as a student ambassador for the No More program at Central East High School. 1 in 3 teens are victims of domestic violence abuse. The No More program educated students about teen dating violence through peer engagement and interaction in schools. We wear orange on February 6th to acknowledge teen dating violence in the month of February. This year, with the help of the Valley Children's, MMC was able to distribute over 2,500 orange shirts to students and staff affiliated with No More to help promote and bring awareness to TDVAM. No More is a trademark program of the Marjorie Mason Center that educates high school students on the red flags of dating violence, as well as the components of healthy dating relationships. The No More program is active in 27 high schools, 11 middle schools, and Fresno County schools across 7 school districts in total. Over 2,000 students working to end teen dating violence throughout the year. No More students spend hours in training covering 16 topics, promoting healthy relationships, including romantic, platonic, family, and professional relationships. If we start with our own healthy relationships, we can start and lead others. Thank you for your support as a council, encouraging healthy relationships in order to make Fresno a safe and vibrant community for all. We appreciate your support.
Anyone else?
Sorry. So my team will be distributing T-shirts and ribbons for everyone to wear, along with swag items. And once we get those passed out, we would love to take a photo, maybe of them holding your shirt, and just encourage the youth in your lives to come to you and talk to you if they're experiencing unhealthy relationships or if they have questions.
So I think the last thing is just if anybody's listening online today, it's a great opportunity to have talks with your students, the young people in your life. Tragically, in Fresno County, 3 teenagers lost their life to intimate partner violence in the last 18 months. And so I highly encourage you to take this opportunity to talk to young people and talk to them about healthy relationships. So thank you all very much for your support. I think we're going to distribute our bags.
Thank you, Nicole. And our department heads that are here today are all have all been dealing with this issue over the years, and so you get to also see it firsthand and what needs to get done. Is there any comment from any of you in terms of the importance of acknowledging and what you're doing?
Good morning, Chairman Mag Sagan, members of the board. I'm actually a board member for Marjorie Mason Center, and this is something that we deal with. We have school resource deputies now out at various high schools and middle schools throughout the county. So we do deal with teen dating violence or assaults related to relationships. And this, what we're doing today, is so important because we have to educate kids, just as Nicole and Jessica said, regarding proper relationships, proper behavior, what's right and what's wrong, because these behaviors start when they're in high school, and then they carry over to when they become adults, and they only get worse. And then we see people being arrested for domestic violence and the victims of domestic violence, which include children, and how it impacts their families in such a negative way. So I'm proud to be a board member for the Marjorie Mason Center. I'm proud to support this cause. And I just want to make sure that people out there listening understand that there are resources. It's not just for adults, it's for kids, it's for our youth who are even in high school, that if you're in a bad relationship or you need help, there are people that can help you. So please reach out. As Nicole said, we've lost 3 individuals, teenagers, to domestic violence related deaths this last year. I know the one was from Firebaugh, but she actually was killed in Madera County. So that really impacted Madera, but just talking to Nicole, the impact it had on the community of Firebaugh where she's from. So reach out, get help. There's resources for you. Law enforcement's here to help you. Schools, Marjorie Mason Center, there's resources out there. So again, thank you for your support for this morning. And anyone else?
Good morning, Chairman Maxig. Kirk Haynes, your Chief Probation Officer, and I just want to echo much of what Sheriff Zanoni just talked about. Young people oftentimes feel like they're in these kind of situations alone. And so what the Marjorie Mason Center does is that ability for them to wrap their arms around young people who may be experiencing domestic violence kind of situations. It's hard enough, even as an adult, to be able to deal with these kind of things, but young people, they have a hard time anyway. And so I want to just say thank you to Marjorie Mason Center and Nicole and all of these students who have stepped up to really show support to those who are really in need and those who may be not unwilling, but just feel like they are unable to reach out for help. So we're going to do everything we can in the probation department with all the young people that we serve to make sure that they can have access to these services, so that, we can try to do everything we can to prevent domestic violence in the future. So again, I want to say and applaud all of you. Thank you so much.
Well, I want to thank all the students. I know there's more students that are also helping and bringing awareness to our community. So I want to thank you for your hard work. It's a lot more encouraging when you have the students just conversing with each other and bringing up the issue. So thank you very much. Chairman, further comments, I guess.
Any other comments from board members? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to proclaim the month of February as Teen Violence Awareness Month.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that passes unanimously. And if all of you would like to come forward at this time, we'll get a picture, and thank you for being here, so please come forward.
Thank you. You got my size?
I was by Cap Alpha Theta Sunday, dropping someone off at DG. So I was like, memories.
Sal called me out. Yeah, I do, brother. You gotta make your
I'm going to
salary.
bring up during our comments about the trailer and vehicle ordinance.
The double L.
Perfect.
I did. Luquini the legend. Double L.
Thank you.
We now move to the consent items that were pulled under Supervisor Brandow for the purpose of recusing himself on item 28. Under Public Works and Planning, approve and authorize chairman to execute consent to the assignment exclusive service area program agreement number 17-565 with Granite Solid Waste to Mid Valley Disposal, and authorize chairman to execute consent to the assignment of Shaver Lake Transfer Station agreement number 10-390 with Granite Solid Waste to Mid Valley Disposal.
And I don't know that we need really a lengthy introduction on this one, but if you just maybe want to briefly, a couple of sentences, talk about this particular item where I believe we have a sale of one hauler to another, and just talk about that briefly.
Awesome. Good morning, Chairman and the rest of the board members. So what we have before you is the assignment from Granite Solid Waste to Mid Valley Disposal. There's an acquisition between both companies, and so if there are any additional questions, staff is here to answer.
All right, I don't see any questions from my colleagues. Since this was pulled, anyone in the public wishing to comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll note that one of the representatives is here, and I don't really see any need for additional comment or clarification, so I'll close the public portion, bring it back for
Motion
appropriate
to
action.
approve.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries 4 with 1 abstention,
Recuse.
or recusal. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes all our consent items that were pulled, Mr. Chairman. We now return to your regular agenda. Item number 4, under the Sheriff, Coroner, Public Administrator, adopt and authorize chairman to execute resolution making determinations regarding military equipment used required by Government Code Section 7071D, conduct first hearing on a proposed ordinance to amend Chapter 10.66 Military Equipment Use Policy to the Title 10 Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare of the Ordinance Code of the County of Fresno.
Floor is yours.
Great. Good morning, Chairman, Board. My name is Captain John Reynolds. I'll be representing the Sheriff's Office today. The item before the Board today will execute a resolution making determinations regarding military use required by Government Code 7071D, also referred to as AB 481. This approval of the recommended actions also includes an increase in appropriations and revenues in the amount of $126,303 to purchase drones for the Sheriff's Office using federal asset forfeiture funds. The allotted appropriations would enable the Sheriff's Office to increase the number of deployable drones from 20, which was approved back in August, to 44. There will also be a second hearing on February 20th of 2024 regarding this matter, and I'm available for any questions.
Questions for staff on this? Seeing none, anyone in the public wishing to comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion, entertain a motion for approval. We have a motion for staff's recommendation. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
We now move to item number 5, under the Administrative Office, adopt recommended changes to the Fresno County Federal Legislative Platform, authorize the chairman to execute letters of support or opposition in accordance with the platform, authorize the County Administrative Office to work with the county's federal congressional delegation, federal advocates, and/or other necessary parties to support or oppose legislation in accordance with the platform, and receive presentation from your federal lobbyists, Carpy and Clay, regarding legislative actions. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, CEO, county council, and staff at the podium, I've been informed that the presenter will be connecting to this meeting via video. To avoid any potential audio feed interference, please mute your mics at this time, indicated by a red light. To avoid any potential audio feed interference, mute your mics, and if you wish to speak at any time, you will unmute your mic. However, once you finish speaking, please place your mic back on.
All right, Sam, floor is yours.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, Samantha Buck, County Administrative Office. The item before your board is the annual update to the federal legislative platform, which serves as the goals and priorities of your board. It also serves for advocacy efforts at the federal level. It's been updated with input from county departments and also our federal legislative advocates, David Wetmore and Laura Morgan Kessler, who are joining us here today via teleconference from DC. Now, for the format of this presentation, I'll provide your board with a brief, high-level overview of the addition that we have this year. I'll open it up to review by your board. Then I'll ask for adoption with the recommended changes. At that point, when we get through the process, I will turn the presentation over to David and Laura, who will provide your board with just a brief update on the activities back in DC ahead of the NACO Legislative Conference, which our chairman and also our CAO will be attending late this week into next week. So for the one change that we have this year, we have additional language that was added under public health that adds the reduction of illegal tobacco sales to individuals aged 21 and under. And I'll open it up to your board for review and comment.
All right, board members, any comments on the platform as presented? All right, let's move on to any presentations or comments from our lobbying firm.
I just wanted to clarify, was there any additional language that we needed added?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Sam, for queuing me up on that because we've talked, and that moved so quickly, I missed an opportunity to talk about something that was important to me and see if I can gain your support on adding something to our packet, and that is in the transportation section. About a month ago, early January, the Biden administration, through Transportation Secretary Buttigieg, decided to open a review of Highway 99 expansion projects, particularly south of the city of Fresno. The Federal Highway Administration is now saying they might have made procedural mistakes in their exemptions of American and North Avenue interchange projects from Clean Air Act analysis. Delays to these projects and other future infrastructure needs harms our local economy that depends on reliable freight network. It will also jeopardize lives because, as you know, that's one of the most dangerous areas in America's most dangerous highways. These interchange improvements will help alleviate some of that danger. I recommend that we amend the platform with some stronger language pushing back on these actions, not just for 99, but all of our highways. And that's kind of in there in a very generic sense. It's already in our transportation section. But we're one of the fastest growing counties in California. Our highways already behind the needs of our community. And I would like to add to our agenda today to amend this recommendation to include in the transportation section this bullet point. Oppose federal regulations or administrative actions that would delay or prohibit expansion of local Highway 99 expansion, interchange improvements, and other crucial freight infrastructure. So it's There is some generic talk about protecting projects in our legislative platform, but I would, because of what happened in January, I would specifically like to protect Highway 99. And so that's the language that I would like to include in today's legislative update.
I don't have a problem with that. Any other members have an issue with that?
I don't either.
All right, then we can incorporate that bullet. Any other members have comments? And just for the record, I had an opportunity to work with the CAO's office on this over the course of the last few weeks. So my silence isn't that I don't have input on this, it's just I've had input already enough. So anyone else have any comments or changes they'd like to make?
Just one comment. I think the few little changes that we made were probably needed. So, I mean, that kind of changes a little bit every year.
Yep. Agreed. Thank you, buddy. All right, anyone in the public wishing to comment on our platform? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion. And did Carpy and Clay have a few comments they'd like to make for us?
Yeah, so we'll turn it over to David and Laura now. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. It's very nice to be with you. And thank you for accommodating us to be virtual. It's a busy time back here, and we look forward to greeting you this weekend and next week for NACO. Please provide this brief report. Laura and I will do a little bit of a tag team and answer any questions at the end. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So here is just an overview of some of the issues we're going to talk about quickly. None of this is particularly new to you, but we always like to reinforce what we're doing on your behalf. So we're going to talk a little bit about our efforts with you, community project funding through the appropriations process, a discussion about your Fresno County delegation, which has undergone some changes, and key dates for this year, and a look ahead in the coming months. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. So what do we do for you on a regular basis? We're always advocating for the county's federal goals and objectives. And this legislative platform is obviously kind of the core of what we work with. So thank you for the review and the changes you're making, because it is topical, it's important, and it's better for us. We act as a regular liaison between the county and your congressional delegation. Now, we know that you have those relationships regularly, but we see ourselves as extending that discussion and having a two-way street with staff in the delegation, with the members, but also with the federal agencies. We conduct bi-weekly phone calls, conference calls with the CAO's staff, where we provide regular updates on what we're doing. We get direction and guidance. We also share real-time guidance with the CAO's office on developments, whether it's the budget, whether it's a funding bill, whether it's a new regulation, et cetera. We're constantly in touch to share information, but also get that feedback. We provide monthly written reports, which you should have received last week, which covers kind of what is happening, but also lists in pretty exhaustive fashion all of the federal grants that have been released for the month and that are available for the county to review and hopefully compete for. We also provide a weekly transportation report. And lastly, we coordinate on your behalf with the National Association of Counties, because while some issues are very unique and important to you, there are a lot of issues that have a national impact. And that's where we look to NACO as a partner to help advance Fresno County's goals and initiatives. And a good example of this would be HILT funding, which is so important to the county and to the West. We'll go to the next slide, please. And here we'll just talk quickly about the community project funding successes. These were earlier known as earmarks, but it allows members of Congress and senators to really try and direct some federal funds to unique local priorities that otherwise don't get accommodated through the regular federal budget allocation process. So you'll see here over the 3 years, some of the successes in fiscal year 22, $3 million for the Mount Whitney Avenue Complete Streets, thanks to Mr. Valdeo. FY23, $1 million for the street paving project in Tranquility with Mr. Senator Padilla, and then $4 million for the Kalwa Streets project with both Senator Padilla and Mr. Costa. And those are law, so those funds are available to you. And then finally for FY24, which we're still in the midst of, we're looking at having $6 million in play, $1 million for the psychiatric health facility that was sponsored by Senator Feinstein, and that's being carried forward. $2 million for Cantua Street sidewalk improvements with Mr. Duarte, and another $3 million for Tranquility Complete Streets, again with Mr. Duarte. And we're anticipating seeing these funding bills come before the House and Senate for final votes, hopefully in early March. So with that, I'm going to over to Laura and be happy to take questions at the end.
Thanks so much, David. Good morning, and appreciate the opportunity to be here. We thought we would just take a quick moment to touch on the county's congressional delegation, as it looks a little bit different than when we spoke with you last year. Over on the Senate side, as you are all aware, Senator Butler was sworn in at the end of 2023 as a result of the passing of Senator Dianne Feinstein, and she will serve until the end of this calendar year. And then she will not be running. So when we see you next year, you will have another new member of your Senate delegation. And then over in the House, former Speaker Kevin McCarthy retired at the end of the 2023 calendar year. And in the coming months, we will know who will be taking over his seat as well. So a few dates that we wanted to make sure that you all were aware of as we start rolling into 2024. David mentioned we're looking forward to seeing you here in just a few days in DC for the National Association of Counties Conference. We are hopeful that by that early March deadline, you see that we will finally have finished the fiscal year 2024 appropriations bills, in which all three of those community project requests totaling $6 million that David highlighted will then be signed into law. Also in early March, we're going to see President Biden give his State of the Union speech, and following that will be the release of his presidential budget proposal. And then we'll move right into the spring, where we will go through that process with you and your staff to put forward new community project requests with your delegation and work over the coming months to shepherd those through. September 30th is the end of the federal fiscal year. And with the elections in November, we're going to see Congress taking an extended congressional recess. So they will be back home in the districts from the end of September through Election Day. And lastly, we wanted to highlight just a few of the opportunities that we see coming down the pike for the county and how we're helping work on, whether it is for funding, legislation, or on the regulatory side. We talked about the president's budget proposal coming out here on March 11th. And following that will be our opportunity for the county to submit both their appropriations programmatic requests. So for programs where the county receives federal funding on an annual basis, such as the Community Development Block Grant Program and the State Criminal Alien Assistance Program, as well as to submit those community project requests or those individual projects to the county, to your members of the delegation. We're going to continue to work to help the county be competitive for grant opportunities. We're continuing to see federal agencies roll out funding opportunities through both the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act. We know that Congress is going to continue to be trying to move bills through the chambers as we move closer and closer until the election date. And then we are always seeing kind of a tick up in regulatory activity and are working closely with the county staff to make sure they're not only aware, but to look for opportunities for the county to provide a specific voice to decision makers back here in DC to really understand how the rules and regulations that they're considering could impact the county, your operations, and your residents. And lastly, we are hopeful that one of the pieces of legislation that Congress will move this year is the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill should have been reauthorized last year. It's currently operating under an extension. And so hopeful that that is a piece of legislation we will see Congress move this year. And with that, as always, we just want to say thank you for the opportunity to work on your behalf back here in Washington, D.C., and to be an extension of your efforts. And we're happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you for the presentation. And seeing no questions from members, and we've already, I believe, closed the public portion on this, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the platform. We have a motion. Is there a second? Yes. Yep. We all agreed to include your bullet. And I would ask if you could provide the exact language to the clerk, even though you read it into the record. That way, when everything's documented, it'll be a little bit easier. Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And it carries unanimously.
We now move to item number 6 under the Administrative Office. Consider and take action on request for determination of public convenience or necessity in regard to application for alcohol beverage license 20.
Staff.
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors. Ron Alexander with the Administrative Office. As we key up the presentation, I'll go ahead and just start briefly. So before your board is a Type 20 ABC license application filed by Loma Vista Prather Corporation. Type 20 license is an off-sale beer and wine license, which authorizes the sale of beer and wine to be purchased and consumed off the site. And we have it going. Thank you, sir. Management Directive 2400 details the three criteria to make a public convenience or necessity determination. Those three include that it will not tend to create a law enforcement problem, that the issuance will provide a needed service to the community, and that it will have a positive impact on the local economy. The applicant has provided a written response to those three criteria. The Department of Public Works has been contacted. There are no zoning issues related to this site. And the Sheriff's Department has seen the application and reviewed it as well. The applicant is in Census Tract 64.06. One off-sale license is allowed by ABC in the census tract. There are currently 0 licenses in that census tract. So this is different from the type that we usually bring before you, which has an over-concentration of licenses in census tracts. This one does not. The applicant has purchased this license because of the moratorium. The ABC rarely issues a brand new license. So the applicant has purchased a license from a census tract that's outside of this area. It's about 25 miles away from the location actually, and is bringing it into this census tract. So ABC requires it to come before your board. This is a map of the census tract, and you can see there with the star, that's the location of the applicant. And you can see there are no other licenses in that census tract. This is an aerial view of the location. The circle there is the applicant's site. It is a vacant lot at the moment. He is located on 168 there between that roundabout and that ranger station there. This is a depiction of the building that he plans to build in that area. As you can see, it's a convenience store. There will be a gas filling station and a food mart for the area. And we have the north view of the applicant's site, the south view, east view, and the west view. And these are from Google Maps. I went up to the location and did take pictures, but these are actually better than mine, so I used those. And again, this is the management directive that for you to make your determination of public convenience. So that concludes my presentation, and I am available for questions.
So it looks like, since that's the criteria we use through your presentation, it looks like all those findings can be met for those points in staff's opinion, correct?
Correct.
All right, very good. Any additional questions for staff?
Presentation.
Thank you.
The alcohol, man.
I'll open it up to the public. Anyone in the public wishing to comment on this item, and I'll note that the applicant is here if any members have questions for the applicant. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion, bring it back to the board for approval. This is in my district. I have no issues with it. I've not received any letters of concern from anyone. I'm happy to make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion, a second for approval. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? I don't see any, so it passes unanimously.
We now move to item number 7. Under Administrative Office, discuss presentation on the Urban Counties of California Coalition and authorize the chairman to appoint a board member and 1 or 2 alternates to serve as a member of the 24-25 UCC Board of Directors.
And I will just remind everyone, I know we talked about this a couple meetings ago, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Buddy is the member. He's been appointed to that UCC board. I'm his alternate. I think both of us are still happy to serve in our respective capacities, unless if any other members have objection to that. Oh, seeing none. Okay, then anyone in the public wishing to comment on this item, because we're going to take some action. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion, bring it back, and the motion is for Buddy to continue to serve as the primary and for me to be his wingman, his alternate. And I'll make that motion. Is there a second to it?
I'll second it.
Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. I just got one question
Sure.
about, can this be brought next year at the same time we do the CSAC representative?
We can. I mean,
Yeah, because it's kind of, that's how you get on the board of directors is
Yeah.
by being on that, you know, the person in the UCC. Because that's who actually elects who gets, our representative, if we get it or not, comes out of that caucus directly.
Absolutely. Yeah, this term begins in July, but we can
Yeah.
do that next time.
Okay.
All right, thank you, buddy. Excellent points. So we'll move on to item 8.
We now move on to item number 8 under social services. Adopt resolution to appoint the Board of Supervisors to serve as the governing body of Fresno County Transitional Shelter Care Facility.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Sonia Bouguet, Department of Social Services. This item is asking your board to take 9 actions related to our Mod C Transitional Youth Shelter. It's essentially the last step we need to do with the Department of Social Services before we become fully licensed. Just as a reminder, about 2 years ago, just a little under, because we struggle with to place our foster youth, some of our foster youth, small number, within 24 hours, we had a need to open a transitional shelter. 2 years later, we still have this need. Part of the process with the Department of Social Services, because they have not licensed a single county for the past decade, has been really working with them to try to operationalize some of the regulations they have that are not well defined yet. We are going to be the first county, if your board passes this, to actually be licensed since 2014. And our intent is long-term to really not operate a shelter, but at the moment, we do need it. What the item asks you is to become a governing board of the shelter, essentially asking us to come back to your board on a quarterly basis with the reports of operations, fiscal audits, any reports that we do to the state when it comes to census and overstays, and any unusual incidences. So we will be back on a quarterly basis. This board item also asks you to approve the governing board's essential terms and agreement with the state, and to appoint me as an executive director for day-to-day operations of the shelter. I'm going to pause there and see if there's any questions.
So with this item, if approved, would this quarterly update need to be on the regular agenda, or could it be placed on consent?
We're still sorting through that, I think. The state is actually asking us to discuss with you only 4 things: program operations, fiscal and program audit, administrative actions, and reports to CCL. They do not provide a lot of detail on how much information to provide or how to articulate it. They do say there should be a discussion. So from that, it looks like it might need to be a regular item, but I do think over time, your board can basically make that determination. And I don't know if Dan wants to weigh in.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I won't call them regulations, but the terms and the guidances that the state provides also provide for doing the detail work in a subcommittee. Unfortunately, we have a unique situation where we have a Brown Act body, but we have a lot of confidential information that might come up in those kinds of discussions, and no way to keep that confidential in a Brown Act body. So that's one of the confusions. But the board could select a subcommittee to go over that in a little more detail. That would still be an open committee, so the department would still have to be careful about sharing any specific information. But as the director said, we are looking at the regulations. It does seem to require that our minutes disclose a discussion of those items, so that would be an open session item.
So my thought is, at some point in the future, if it looks like it makes sense to do a subcommittee, I can appoint one, unless if there are members right now who want to be appointed to be on a subcommittee to review this information with DSS, I'm open to that as well. But I know that many of you serve on numerous boards. Some of us serve on as many as 20 or more. So I think at a later date, we can make that determination if we need to do a subcommittee. One more question for you, Council. Do we need to take separate action on any of these items, or can all 9 be taken under one action?
I think you can, as long as it's clear that the board is approving all 9 of them, I think you can take them in all at the same time.
All right. Excellent. Any other comments from members? Yes.
Yeah, I would just like to say to Sanjay and your team, thank you very much. I mean, this is another place that goes unheralded, but Fresno County is really taking a lead here. And I think that with this, as this moves forward today and gets implemented, it's going to be a path for other counties to follow. In all reality, we're doing a lot of the work that the state should have been doing. And so now we're partnering with them, but I appreciate all the work you guys are doing in shepherding this forward.
Thank you. And I do appreciate that and want to thank my team. There has been a lot of work with CDSS on back and forth and trying to work through what this process should look like. Certainly, County Council Office has done an amazing job helping us through navigate some of this because the regulations are really weren't intended for the counties to actually have shelters. And as we're working through program operations, we're also partnering with behavioral health and public health and law enforcement when it comes to how our shelter operates. So it has been a partnership across many departments to get this to your board today. So appreciate that help.
And Sonia as well, I think there was legislation last year that allows for counties to do what we're attempting to do. Is that correct? That took effect January 1?
No, it actually, the regulations have been there all along. It just the state hasn't been licensing it. Part of the struggle is because there hasn't been detailed regulations. The state is taking group home and short-term residential treatment program operational standards and trying to convert them so counties can use them. That is, I think, what has added some of the confusion. So they're using terms like board of directors and executive director, which really does not apply to counties, but they were trying to change it so the counties could apply for it because there has been an ask for multiple counties, us included, that this is a need.
So really, this is very recent where the regulations have changed to such where our county can receive this license.
The operating standards have been changing just about continuously and significantly during this past year to basically reopen this option to the counties, even though it's technically been on the books all along.
All right, excellent. Any other comments, board members?
I think this is just the state and their infinite non-wisdom of trying to deflect a problem that they caused.
Agreed 100%. But you know what? It's very valuable to our county, considering what's happened in that department over the last couple of years. It's kind of like a final piece that's going to be very helpful. We did a lot of heavy lifting early on, but this is kind of like a final piece that's going to really help some of these troubled young people. So it's very valuable.
Anyone in the public wishing to comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion, bring it back to the board, and remember, you can take up all 9 items under one action. Just make sure it's clear in your motion that that is the case.
I'll make a motion to take up all items in this action and approve.
So for staff's recommendation on all 9 items, is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing no further comment, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that was unanimous, so there was no opposition.
We now move to item number 9 under social services, approve amendment to the salary resolution, deleting 1 vacant job specialist position and adding 21 positions to the Department of Social Services, Order 5610, effective February 19, 2024.
All right, this one is me as well. This is a request to your board to add net of 20 positions to the Department of Social Services. There's really 3 programs that we're impacting by this action. Our IHSS program for our social workers, this action would have a net savings to our operations in IHSS because we would take 8 social work positions and transition them to child welfare, but add social work aid and eligibility worker positions. As this caseload has been growing on an ongoing basis, this really would be helping us manage ongoing workload for social workers with some support staff to maintain annual renewals. The bulk of this item is adding positions, 17, to our child welfare program, including permanent staffing for our Mod C. How we've operated our Mod C, our transitional shelter, really has been by borrowing staff from other operations, which then impact ability to provide ongoing supports to both our social workers and to our families. Majority of staff added are the social work aides. It would help us improve visitations, improve family finding, and provide ongoing support for some of the, well, not mandated, certainly support systems that would give us better opportunities to place our youth. I do want to point out a couple of things. One is while there's increase in cost to our 5610 budget, overall These positions are fully funded by state and federal funds, and it will long-term allow us to have some savings that would include realignment savings in our 6410 budget. Our supports, while we have done a lot over this past year and a half to accomplish reduction in caseload, reduction in entries into care, permanency for kids, there are some requirements that were mandated through to CCR that we have not been able to staff up to the level that were needed. I do believe that long-term, not only did we have a fiscally sound recommendation here, but we actually will have savings. There is a secondary action in this item that if state budget picture changes, that it gives the CEO authority to freeze or delete positions that are like funded. When looking at the January budget, so I'm cognizant of the fact that January budget really did not look good across the state. These programs were not impacted, and the funding that would sustain them has been there for the department, but it does give you an added protection from fiscal impacts when it comes to potential state budget changes. And I'm going to pause there and ask if you have any questions.
So just for the board, things that I'm hearing out of Sacramento, where I'm paying close attention, and I appreciate, Sonia, you making the comments about how if there's any major changes in the budget, that we will have the ability to take swift action. But I'm hearing that realignment specifically, timing of payments for realignment, that could be, timing could be delayed a little bit. I think right now with IHSS, just going off memory, and you'll probably have the exact number, but I think about $50 million of realignment is used for IHSS alone. And I want to say that program, we've authorized somewhere around 36 or 37 million hours for the providers, and that whole program, including state and federal funding, our NCC, as well as realignments, close to $800 million, maybe a little more than that. So delays in payments can really impact our budget if the state and federal government run into an issue where they need to delay it. So watching this closely and working with Oscar's office is going to be critical, and part of my direction to you today if if this moves forward.
I do want to kind of comment on a couple of things. You're right, our number for IHSS takes majority of our 91 realignment for providers to pay our MOE. This action does not impact MOE or IHSS providers. That's our 6410 budget. My IHSS staff, social workers, social work aides, are fully funded by state and federal government, and do not, addition or reductions in that staffing does not impact our MOE. Changes to provider wages do. When it comes to realignment, after your comments, we looked through the state budget if that impacted social services realignment. To date, we have not been able to find anything that social services realignment and timing of those payments would be impacted. I have heard from my staff that in the IGT process, that now our health and behavioral health, that's how their reimbursement methods change. IGT process has an impact on their realignment timing, but social services realignment, specifically 91 or 2011 realignment, through the governor's budget actions, nothing has been specifically stated, but we'll keep watching.
Excellent. Any other comments?
Oh, but that goes right with, what you said is, I think the governor's budget is, I call it the wimpy plan. But you don't know what Tuesday you're going to get paid. So don't be surprised if payments are delayed.
We have in our administrative budget 149 state and federal funding sources. How they've all fared in the governor's budget is not equal. So I have programs that have been impacted and programs that have not. These have not. We manage program by program, funding source by funding source. My fiscal staff have quite a job. So yes, we're going to pivot. A part of it is given some of the increases when it comes to needs of our population, I do think a lot of our programs were not impacted. Child welfare and IHSS from the state and federal perspective have not been, but we will keep an eye.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. My question is to the CAO. Paul, you've obviously vetted this information, and our action item today says there's no increase to net county costs associated with this action. And so you agree with that, and then also the financials behind this proposal?
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor Brandow, members of the board, Paul Nerland, your CAO. As Sonia can attest, we had many many discussions about the item before you today, including delving deeply into the costs. And one of the things that was convincing to me is federal and state dollars that the county and DSS is, quote, leaving on the table right now by not using that money today. But at the same time, with the uncertainty in the state budget, item number 2 that was part of my approval of bringing this item forward, which essentially is unusual, but it is your board essentially giving me the authority that if we see a change drastically, that now there is a net county cost impact, it allows me to work with the department to cut either these positions or equivalent positions should that take place. But can I add one other quick note? I want to commend your board and Sonia. You know, in this department, we talked a lot about vacant positions, and it's been a struggle to recruit and retain. We don't take enough time to celebrate the results of some of the things your board has approved, but some of the areas like social workers, for example, we're seeing vacancy rates cut in half from what they were already, which is really a result of your leadership and some of the actions that you've approved. So just want to note that as well.
I do want to echo that. Thank you. We have worked in the past year and a half from, we had positions that were in high 20s to overall department vacancy rate has dipped as low as 9%. We're at 10% now, but it has gone in a positive direction. And our social work vacancy rate, which we really struggle with, went as low as 5%. Our retention in the past few years has actually improved as well. Year by year, we've worked with HR to actually really look at annual retention rates. That across the board with continuous recruitments, faster recruitments, better processes, as well as increases in pay to stay competitive with our neighboring counties and actually other entities that steal my social workers. It has made a difference, and a really positive difference when it comes to our ability to hire and retain. So thank you. That has made a huge difference in being able to serve the families in our community.
Sal?
And Supervisor Mendez, you gave a good example earlier. There isn't too many of us in the room that are familiar with the WIMPY plan, but you know, I know there's a few of us that are, so on any given Tuesday, right? Yeah. And Sonia, thank you for meeting with me regarding this item. The question I had, and I think you did a good job in explaining it, was for how long were we going to receive these monies and the number of folks that we were going to put into positions. So your explanation was pretty good in terms of what can happen and how we're going to deal with that. So I'm pretty comfortable with moving forward with it. So thank you.
I do want to echo Paul's comments on, we had many meetings trying to get here, and I do appreciate the worry given the state budget. This is, as your board has prioritized child welfare, I do appreciate that 17 of these positions are going to child welfare and would really make a difference when it comes to supporting some of the key programs. And part of what we have been, not intentionally, but for various reasons doing, is leaving in the past 3 years, 16 million, 18 million, 21 million on the table for the services that really, I don't want to spend money for the sake of spending money. However, we have essential programs and needs that our community has. It's utilizing those dollars to implement some of the key programs that we need to, and supports for both our families, kids, and our staff that would long-term provide us savings on a placement end, which I do think from both the well-being of our kids and our fiscal health, spending money on placement is not where we really want to invest.
Anyone in the public wishing to comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion, bring it back to the board for action.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion for staff's recommendation and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there, I heard that it's unanimous, so.
You did a good job, Sonia.
Yeah. We now move to item number 10, Board of Supervisor Committee reports and comments.
And we will start with Supervisor Brandow.
Yeah, I don't have a lot today. The San Joaquin River Conservancy Board that I sit in has offered a contract to an applicant for the executive officer position. So I don't want to name a name. I got to make sure that this person accepts that offer. But it went through a very lengthy interview process, and glad to have that resolved. We've had an interim leader for almost a year. But then yesterday I had a conversation with the CAO, and I'm very interested, this media story about 19 Venezuelan refugees who have found their way to Fresno, one way or the other. And it really made me start thinking about that over the weekend. And I've asked our chairman to help me get to where we really are. It's hard to believe that these are the first 19 people that have arrived from the different crises at our border and in other nations. So I'm trying to get my head wrapped around that, and I've asked the CAO to help me put together a meeting with folks that would know, not just in Fresno County departments, but then in some other CBOs that are working in this space that would have some input into that, and then help us get our mind around what things can we do to help people, what things can we not do. And so I look forward to that.
All right. Supervisor Mendez.
This is on all this illegal dumping that we have going on in the county, that I think we need to look at our ordinances and maybe come up with some monetarily stiffer ordinances. I think we need to work a little harder at this, and I think we should actually maybe spend a little bit of money on intel, because some of this is done by people that are paying, other people are paying them. They don't have a license to dispose, or they're not registered to dispose, and they're just taking the stuff out and dumping it. Now, one of the interesting things is, when I'm just going to say from the other supervisors that have country area, that these appliances, washers, dryers, that kind of stuff, people could take them to Caglia, and they'll take them. So it's just people aren't either not using their head, or they're just out for a quick buck and dumping it on the rest of us farmers out there. So I think we need to work a little harder at doing some preventative deals.
Yeah, Supervisor Mendez, would you like us to come back? We can come back with recommendations of what's happening, but also some options going forward. We'd be happy to do that.
I think Supervisor Magzig, you're working on some things
Yeah,
for the sheriff's office now.
When I get to my update, I'll share some things that the sheriff and I have been working on, and with county council as well. But I like what Buddy's idea about maybe also having some kind of monitoring program for some of the hotspot areas to be able to catch people in the act too. I think that's a great idea.
It really is a situation where we're a little limited what we can do under the state in terms of increasing our ordinance. We will do what we can, but the boots on the ground is the problem, catching these guys at night that are dumping stuff.
We get calls in our district regarding county islands where they're surrounded by the city, and these older county islands, because of the year they were built, have alleys.
Right.
So they go right in there and they'll dump all their.
I've got one of those behind my house.
They'll dump everything, including the big appliances, and they don't care if they block the rest of the alley. And so that's, we've worked with Public Works on some of that, trying to discourage folks from doing that, posted signs and, just saying you're being watched type of deal. But it's, and even the neighbors are afraid to be a little bit vigilant in terms of turning folks in, because some of them are their neighbors.
Right.
And so that's another part we need to look into as well. So, good suggestion. Thank you.
I want to toss in on that conversation because this part about increasing the amount of fees if you get caught, or penalty, I guess, if you get caught, that applies to illegal dumping in the rural parts of Fresno County. And as Sal said, sometimes even in the city, in county islands. But I think we need to revisit these penalties across the board, because we have other things that impact our urban needs that people are blowing off because the fines are not enough for them to worry about. So I think that's a vital part of this entire conversation.
And I think that's also part of the frustration that Public Works has, because they're going over and over to the same place.
Yeah.
You know, so that's,
There's a couple of bad places in Bryant's district, right outside of town.
That's a perfect segue. Brian, what do you have?
I could have restocked my entire kitchen on just my drive into town today with all the appliances on the road. So I wholeheartedly agree. I think we should up the fees. Our county council is always telling us why we can't or what the issues are, but he should be telling us how to get it done. So I'd appreciate that going forward when we bring this back. Don't tell us what we can't do. Tell us how we get what we want done. And I'll leave it at that.
I like that approach. And so now the sheriff and I are working on an ordinance which we hope to bring to this body very soon, which allows us to confiscate trailers and trucks, vehicles that are involved in this dumping, and impound the vehicles for a period of time. I'd like to see 30 days, just because that gets real expensive. I think some of the haulers out there that are doing this, once they realize that the penalty is having their vehicles impounded, they'll think twice before trying to save maybe $200 going to the dump and dumping that material when they might be facing a $4,000 or $5,000 charge to get their vehicles out of impound after not being able to use them for 30 days.
Actually, I think the actual fee to dump is between $12 and $18, which is ridiculously low as to why people don't do it.
So hitting the nail on the head, we just want to encourage people to do it the right way. And if you sting them by taking their equipment from them, I think that is a fantastic approach. And so I'm hopeful that county council will be able to look at state law and then look at other counties and find a way to make this a reality. So really appreciate the sheriff working with my office and the CAO's office to bring this back to you. Also, to follow up on the migrant comments, wanted to talk a little bit about this issue as well, because it's my understanding that with the county's been looking into this issue, and the city of Fresno may have, or representatives there may have been aware that these migrants were coming, earlier, but didn't think it wise to maybe talk to the county a little bit. But the status of a lot of these migrants is important, and it's my understanding that they are not recognized as refugees at this point. So with that, services that may be available to them are very limited. I know that I am just one supervisor, and I want what's best for these individuals who are here, but I look at the number of homeless that we already have, our social services being taxed, and clearly it points to the fact that we've got to get a handle on what's going on at the border, and we can't be allowing individuals just crossing the border and impacting all of our cities and counties across the entire United States. So I'm hopeful that through this process, it strengthens the resolve of all of us to speak with one voice on the border issue. Something else too, I don't know if this is true or not, but I know that a lot of the buses that were being sent to Chicago or eastern cities they declared themselves sanctuary cities. I don't know if the city of Fresno declared itself a sanctuary city. I don't know why the city of Fresno was specifically chosen, but it's troubling that a busload of migrants in Denver would be sent thousands of miles to Fresno, 1,500 miles to Fresno, because that is, that's quite a haul. But curious to know why specifically Fresno, because I'm not aware of this region being designated a sanctuary region. So I don't know if staff can look into that a little bit.
But the media also, in the media, reported that they thought, the migrants thought they were going to Indio, California, and ended up in Fresno. The other part too on the news was that when they arrived in Fresno, our public health department was notified, and Department of Social Services to see what they can do to help. So that, they got a hold of them right away, and if they came in over the weekend, they were able to make contact, and I guess rescue mission took a little bit of flack too for some of the outreach that they did. So it's all, just like, as you say, it needs to come together.
Mr. Chairman, I thought that the city of Fresno was a sanctuary city, but in the media, I saw that Mayor Dyer said that it was not. So maybe that clarifies. But so apparently, the city of Fresno is not a sanctuary city. But irregardless, we need to, we have a role to play. And I do acknowledge that the mayor also said that he was working with Fresno County. So it was nice to hear that juxtaposed against what we normally hear. But, Fresno County has a big role to play, but my understanding is, like you quoted, our hands are tied and because of the actual status that is given to these folks. I'd like to see all that ironed out for the sake of the community, because I've seen just this week, excuse me, I've seen the Fresno Mission attacked for their role to play, which is trying to help people, and that is their mission. And they're a faith-based nonprofit that helps people all the time. So until the community can understand what's going on, we're going to see a lot of fragmentation. So I'd like, and that's why I was talking to our CEO, I think it's valuable if we convene a meeting and really get some understanding on this. Because these 19 folks, that's just hit because there's a bus involved, and there's Denver involved, and there's Texas involved. So it's created this great media blitz on this item. But the truth is, my guess is there's probably hundreds of people, if not already here, headed here. And the community needs to digest all that information.
Thank you. And then my last comment is, or Paul, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Just a quick comment. So, as I shared with some of you, my first day back in the country, this came up, and that day I was informed by the city manager of this issue, but I understood that they had been in town for a few days, and at least a couple council members were aware that they were here and had not notified us. What we have learned is, yes, this may be the first buses that have come here that were getting attention, but they are not the first in Fresno County. And they may have been coming in smaller waves, in smaller groups, but to Supervisor Brandau's point, we're going to try to get a better idea of what the impact has been on our community and come back to you with those numbers.
Right. I serve on the FIGA committee. I'm vice chair for the National Association of Counties. One of the items that we're going to be taking up is a resolution dealing with really calling on Washington to balance their budget. So with the deficit spending that continues to take place, at some point, the piper is, the bill's going to come due. And so I know many members have been pushing on a resolution trying to make clear that the $34+ trillion national debt that's out there is going to be impacting us at the local level as well, just our ability to borrow with inflation the way it's going. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. I don't think anyone on this board has a concern over the federal government reining in its spending a little bit and working towards balancing its budget. We have to do it. Cities have to do it, but the federal government does not. So, yes.
Yeah, and, it's been a good discussion in terms of what happened this past week, and I know our board is just to mention that we're all focused on the day-to-day concerns that we have with the homeless situation, the trash dumping that we're getting from calls that we're getting from residents. So it's not that we're going to be ignoring any of that and just work on this, but it's just an overall concerns that we have, and we have to also weigh in on those items. Thank you.
All right. So I think that's all the comments that we have.
We now move to item number 11, board appointments.
All right, board appointments. Anyone have anyone they need to appoint? We'll start with Supervisor Brandau.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have three. The Library Sales Tax Citizen Review Panel, I'd like to appoint Bradley Miranda to the vacant at-large position. To the Fresno Metro Flood Control District, I'd like to appoint Aaron Mendez to the vacant at-large position. To the Air Pollution Control District, this is a Citizens Advisory Committee, I'd like to reappoint Chris McLaughlin to that position.
All right, Supervisor Mendez.
Yeah, I got one, Selma Cemetery District, reappoint Una Tristan to the new term starts, goes to January 3rd, 2028.
All right, perfect. Supervisor Quintero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two reappointments. One is to reappoint Kerry Catalano to the Housing Authority Board, and the second appointment is Charles Garabedian to the Economic Opportunities Commission. And that's all.
All right, Supervisor Pacheco doesn't have any, so I've got a couple. To the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District Advisory Committee to reappoint Manuel Cunha Jr. to the at-large seat, which expired on January 31st, 2024. To the Clovis Cemetery District, reappoint Charles Rigsby to the seat which expired on January 3rd, 2024. And to the Zoo Authority, reappoint Ralph Waterhouse to the at-large seat which expired on January 8th, 2024. Anyone in the public wishing to comment on any of these appointments? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion. Entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that carried unanimously.
We now move to item number 12, public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the board on any matter not on this agenda.
Anyone wishing to comment on any item? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion, and we'll move to item 13.
Any public comment for closed session?
Anyone in the public wishing to comment on closed session items? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion. County Council, are we going to need to report out, or can we convene or close the meeting now?
No, Mr. Chairman, we do not anticipate any reports out of closed session. If the board chooses, it may adjourn following closed session.
I'll entertain a motion for closure of this meeting. We have a motion. We'll take Buddy's second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And we will do as such. We'll move into closed session now. Thank you all.